Hello and thank you for joining our webinar, Pain-Free Pupil Assessment with Promethean at ClassFlow. I'm Andy Stevens, your host for this afternoon. I will be managing the chat for this session along with our Promethean advocates Caroline, Sarah and Anne. If you use the chat function during the session, please make sure you select all participants from the drop-down menu in the window before sending your chat. If you do want to ask something privately, please select Chat to All Panelists. Dennis Pramstatter, Promethean Teaching and Learning Consultant for the UK and Ireland, will be presenting today, so I'll hand you over now to get started.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Andy. Okay. Nope. Just give me a second there. I'm having a technical difficulty. There we go. Okay, today's session is a follow-on from our last webinar, which was entitled Use ActivInspire to Deliver Assessments Using Any Device. In this session, we'll take a look at the progressive development of Promethean's assessment offerings and have a look at how ClassFlow Desktop and ClassFlow.co.uk continue to build on what ActiVote and ActivExpression started many years ago. This session is more of an overview of what ClassFlow has to offer with regards to assessment in and out of the classroom. We will be offering future, more focused webinars in the next school year, which will expand on the different parts of this overview. So if you look out on PrometheanWorld.com/GB under News and Events, we will be putting up some more dates and times for some more ClassFlow-focused webinars. So to get started, let's just quickly have a look at where Promethean are with our learner response systems. So Promethean has always recognized the importance of ongoing progressive assessment of learning in the classroom. We provide a range of student response systems designed to promote full class participation and engagement, while also facilitating ongoing real-time feedback on student progress. So we first started out with this little device here. And I wonder if anybody could tell me what that device is in the chat. We'll see if anybody can remember the name of that one. This is an older one because it eventually progressed to have nice little colored buttons, and we also had a blue one. That's right, some people have got it voting. It was called ActiVote, and we did also have lowercase as well for younger learners. Then came our next incarnation of the learner response, which is ActivExpression. And we first started out with this handset here that had the orange background, and the orange back. And then we went on to the ActivExpression 2, which you can see here, which has a full QWERTY keyboard, and it also has a wider screen, and it was also backlit. So they built on some of the requests that we had gotten from teachers on these devices in the classroom. Now, these are all still products that are on our current price list. These are still products that we do sell and still do have a fantastic application in the classroom. So if people are looking for devices specifically for questioning in the classroom, don't want them to do anything else, that's what they're for, then these devices are absolutely perfect for that and work very well with ActivInspire, and also our ActivExpression 2 devices will work with ClassFlow as well. But what we were seeing was a big change in schools, where schools were now moving away from getting devices that did one thing and starting to look at purchasing devices that did a variety of things. So, for example, looking at bring your own device initiatives into school, or tablet initiatives where schools are buying classfuls of tablets. But also, we do know historically, especially in primary schools and also secondary schools where you have a computer suites, and in primary schools you might have your cart of laptops that could be checked out and used within class. So all of these great internet-connected devices that could actually be used for doing this fantastic assessment with technology as well. Okay, so adding on to that assessment, that LRS range, we now have ClassFlow integration in ActivInspire. We also have ClassFlow Desktop, and then we've got our ClassFlow website. And I'm going to be specifically talking about the UK one which is classflow.co.uk. And I am going to just touch on all of these in this session. Okay, so as I said, we've got all of these, but as we moved on, this was why we introduced ClassFlow, to be able to use those devices that we're starting to see appear in the classrooms and make better use of them. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, ClassFlow is Promethean's latest software offering. It's a cloud-based collaborative learning application where you're able to ensure that the active participation and engagement of every student in your class by enabling the flow of interactive content across multiple devices. So one of the things, and I'm going to show this to you a little bit later on, is the teacher can ask a question on the display, fire that out to their students can answer on their devices and send their answer back. So we've got that push and pull of information. To support our current customer base and encourage new customers, we've included that class integration into ActivInspire so that student devices can also be used with existing ActivInspire flipcharts. You can also use ActivExpression at the same time as using the ClassFlow integration as well. And then we've also introduced ClassFlow Desktop, and that kind of provides a bridge between the old and the new, enabling teachers to use polling features of ClassFlow or polling features of ActivInspire without having to use an ActivInspire or without having to use the ClassFlow website. Because what it enables you to do is to be able to use the polling features of ClassFlow on top of any application on your. As I said, we're going to take a look at all of these in a little bit more detail. So let's start out with the integration of ClassFlow in ActivInspire. So what is it? ClassFlow and ActivInspire are two separate pieces of software. And what this button up here does is it uses the device connectivity component of ClassFlow, thereby allowing student devices like smartphones, tablets, laptops, desktop computers, so any of these internet-connected devices that students are bringing into the classroom, so any combination of them, to connect to an ActivInspire flipchart lesson. Like ActiVote or ActivExpression, the integration allows you to create assessment opportunities within your flipcharts using devices that learners in your school already have access to. And as I said, if you have ActivExpression, it doesn't make them redundant because you're able to use a combination of devices as well. In order to use this feature, you need to make sure that you have the latest version of ActivInspire installed, and you can download it from support.promethean.com and just look and then find ActivInspire. And the latest version you want to look at, and world. So I'm just going to say we're talking about the one that's available, latest version in English, which is version 2.6. So one of the things I want to point out as well is with this integration, we did talk about this in the webinar, and when currently, if you want to use, it will only if you're using in the English language. English UK, English US, and Italian. The other thing is that you need to register for a ClassFlow account. So if you are a UK teacher, we would encourage you to register at classflow.co.uk, and you just need to register for an account there. And then that you need to make sure you have in order to get connection working up and running. If you're not in UK, don't forget everybody else that's on the phone. I've just had somebody from Brazil saying hi. If you're not sure which ClassFlow site you should get, just send us a wee afterwards or in the chat and we can find out that information for you as well. Now, I've got so much to cover in this short amount of time, and I really want to get on to ClassFlow Desktop and the ClassFlow site to start looking at assessment. So I'm not going to go in depth into how this works because that's what we did in our last webinar. So if you are wanting to find out specifically about this ClassFlow integration within ActivInspire, then I would suggest that you go to YouTube, and if you just search for PrometheanUKI, and that stands for UK and Ireland, because that's the region that I cover, So if you just search for PrometheanUKI, you'll come to our YouTube channel and you can watch a recording of that last webinar that we did, which focused on use ActivInspire to deliver assessments using any device. So with that integration, we've got a good range of question types. If you are an an ActivExpression user, you might recognize all of these question types as ones that you can already do with the ActivExpression devices. But what we can now do with the ClassFlow integration is now I can send one of my flip chart pages to my students. And I'm just going to show you that. So if I go to this page here, I've got this great little math question. And what I can do is with this button on my toolbar, if I click that, and then bear with me while I flip to one of my browsers here, I've got a connected student, and you can see that that card, that ActivInspire flip chart page, has now shown up in the student device on my student account. Okay, so this is my student Jan who's logged into my class. Now, right away, the first thing that people ask me is, how does my student answer that? How do they interact with that? And within ActivInspire, they can't. So what send a page allows you to do in ActivInspire is it allows you to send a flip chart page to the student devices. But essentially, it's a flat page. The students can't interact with that page. But there is ways that that can be used, and I think that there is a good value to being able to do that as well. So for example, if we were working on a piece of text, it was quite a lot of text that I had on my flip chart page. Some of my students might be finding it difficult to try and track on the display on the vertical plane to try and pick out the information and feed that back to me. So by sending it to their devices, it makes it more accessible to them. They can read that more easily on the horizontal plane. They can put their finger on their device to pinpoint specific pieces of information to then feed back to the teacher or the student who could interact with the same page on the screen, so maybe circling or highlighting or something like that. But I do know that it's not quite the same as sending that out and getting to interact with it. So although you can't do that at ActivInspire, you can in ClassFlow Desktop and also in ClassFlow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back here to my flip chart for a minute, and I'm going to introduce you to ClassFlow Desktop. So ClassFlow Desktop is actually, just before I go into ClassFlow Desktop, I'm going to ask if there is any questions that have come in on the ClassFlow integration within ActivInspire.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. The first one is from Lisa, and she has asked, hello, I work in a school for students with visual impairments. Are these devices tactile or talking? So the ActivExpression's devices.
The ActivExpression ones are not, I'm afraid.
But I guess elements of ClassFlow.
Elements with ClassFlow you'd be able to. I do apologize. Angie and I are in the same room today, so we're having a little bit of echoing coming in there as we both speak.
The other question was from Gokhan. He said, I have a ClassFlow account, but my students cannot connect via code. But I think that's one that we'll probably cover off further down the line.
Yeah, we're going to be going to the ClassFlow website soon. So we'll have a look at that there.
Yeah, that's everything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Andy. Not sure how that's going to come up in the recording, but we'll have a look at that afterwards. So, as I said, we're just going to go on to ClassFlow Desktop. Now, as you can see on the screen there, ClassFlow Desktop offers me a variety of things that I can do. And as I said before, it allows you to capture and share your screen when you're displaying content from any website, document, or presentation software. Which means that you can instantly create dynamic interactive lesson material without having to prepare everything again. Okay, so without having to build everything again, you can use the materials that you already have. Not only does it provide the ability to instant whiteboard, but it also includes a built-in browser, making it easy to quickly share pages with students. Okay, So to get to ClassFlow, I'm actually going to show you that once we go to the ClassFlow website. But once you sign up for your ClassFlow account, then you can download ClassFlow Desktop free of charge from there. It is an application that you need to download and install on your computer. And I can do basic things with it offline, so basic things when it's not connected to the internet. But to get the full use of it, and the use that we're going to talk about tonight specifically around assessment, then you need to make sure that the computer you're using it on is connected to the internet, because you will be connecting to a ClassFlow account that you've created as well. Okay, so we'll come back there in a minute and I'll show you where you can find that. So I already have ClassFlow Desktop open, and bear with me where I flip through a few things here. So ClassFlow Desktop opens here, just a toolbar on the right side of my screen. And you can see that I have sort of a cut-down toolbar, some of the things that you're a little bit similar to in ActivInspire. But certainly if you're using the ClassFlow website, there's a lot of icons here that you'll recognize. So it's a cut down of what I can do in ClassFlow. You've got divided into sections, so these ones tend to be ones with my interaction with students. These are different things that I can display, so my desktop, instant whiteboard, my web browser, and then I also have annotation tools, so I can annotate on top of anything and can clear those annotations. I can also take a screenshot and be able to save that screenshot to come back to later on, or I can take a screenshot and send that out to my students as well. Now, in order to use the assessment features, you need to connect to a ClassFlow class. When I open that up, the first thing that I will get here will be classes. Now, this one is connected, and I'm going to come out of there for a second. So this one, you can see here, it's picked up some classes. And the reason why these class names are here is because I created them in my online classflow.co.uk account. You can also connect with no class, so without having to set up anything, without having to go to classflow.co.uk at all, you can connect your students right into a ClassFlow desktop session as long as you are on the internet. The only drawback with doing that is that any of that valuable assessment data that's collected won't be saved. So once I close down my lesson in ClassFlow Desktop, I've lost that, unless I connect with a class that I've created in classflow.co.uk. If I do that, then that information will be saved back in there. Now, we're not going to be looking at that today. As I said, this is just a really quick introduction to ClassFlow Desktop and seeing what you can do with assessment. And we will be offering a more focused webinar, or a couple of more focused webinars on ClassFlow Desktop in the new school year. But what I want to do is I'm going to go to that connect with no class. And I've got a few people on here that I was going to get to connect, but anybody could really connect in if you wanted to. You just need to open up your browser window and go to classflow.co.uk/student. And I've done that here. So if I come in here, I've got classflow.co.uk/student, and then you want to input the information. So I'll show you that one on another screen. Bear with me, I've got lots of screens here. So this is what you should see, and then it asks you to join the class, and you want to enter the class code, which is QQQBW, and then you're going to join the class. Once you click join that class, it will ask your students to just type their name in. So you want them to type their name in and then click join anyway, and they can join into the class. So you can see right now I've got Peter joined and I've got Andy joined. And if there was a couple other people that wanted to join in there, that would be great. But if not, I'm going to try and get some people to join the actual ClassFlow lesson. Okay. So I'm just waiting for a couple people. Hopefully we can get a couple more people on there. But what I can do is I will flip between the student view and the teacher view as well. Okay, I'm just going to close that. So as I said, one of the things that it allows me to do is it allows me to take something like this, which is a Word document, and I can actually send this to my students and have them interact with that information. So if I go over here to where it says Start Poll, and the type of poll that I'm going to choose right now is a creative poll. So when I choose creative, and you have to bear with me because I am toggling between windows here, I'm now going to go into what you would see on a student device. So you can see here that they get this picture, and if I wanted to, I could make that bigger just by stretching it on my student device, and then I get these tools down the side here. So I could pick up the pen and I could write some information on there. So we could do that sum, so I could get them to complete this equation, showing me their work, and I have all that information there. And once they're finished, they can submit that in by clicking Submit. Okay. And then I can view the results here by clicking on my results viewer, and I can see, even though interestingly I only seem to have 2 here, I actually have more people who are connected to my class, because I can see all of those cards coming in. Okay, so what's great about Creative is I can send them out a page, get them to interact with it, send that back in, and then we could display this in front of the class for everybody to have a look at. Okay. Now, if I want to come out of that, I'm just going to click that, and do bear with me for a second, because I think I might have to restart ClassFlow because it's not giving me a button for some reason, and it's probably because I've been doing the integration with ActivInspire as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out of this. So those of you that connected, I might need to get you to connect again. I do apologize. So bear with me while I exit ClassFlow Desktop. Okay, and I'm going to come back in. What I should have had there was I should have had a pause and a stop button that would allow me to pause the assessment and stop the assessment. But as I say, I think I confused it a wee bit by using the integration with ActivInspire, so it wasn't coming up, and I think that's why it wasn't showing all my students as well. So let's try that again. We're going to go connect with no class. That's better. Now I can see that I've got 11 connected on there, 10. Somebody just dropped off. Okay, so I'm going to close that down again. So as I said, I could have a Word document, or it could be a PowerPoint, or it could be a website. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with Brainpop, but Brainpop's a great little subscription website, and it has fantastic videos on a variety of subjects. But they always have one video every day that is free. And I didn't know, but today is International No Smoking Day, and I found that out from Brainpop. And what it does is I click on it, and it lets me play a little video. So we could watch the video with my class, and then I'm just going to pause that. We won't go through it because it's not about Brainpop today. But every Brainpop video comes with a quiz. So if I click on that little quiz there, instead of having my students do this one at a time independently on devices, we could do this as a class activity by using ClassFlow. So I'm just going to do this one, a review quiz here. And we can see that I've got a question there that's come up on the screen. So before I click the one to see if we got the answer correct or incorrect, I could get my whole class to give me an idea of what they say. So I'm just going to use the polling option here. And I want to do multiple choice. And we've got A to D, and I'm going to start the poll. Okay, so now on my student devices, what you'll see is a snapshot of the card, which shows you that Brainpop quiz, and then you can choose the answer that you want. And I haven't even read it. I'm just going to choose B, and I can submit that in. Okay, I'm going to minimize that once more. And again, what I can do is if I go into this view here, and it's just not playing with me today because I submitted that answer and it's not come in, and I imagine a couple of you have submitted the answers and it hasn't come in. But normally I would see the names come in down here, and I would see the response that they gave as well. And again, I do apologize. I'm not sure why my desktop is not behaving for me just now, because I did test it just before this and it was working absolutely brilliantly. But it would come up here, and I would be able to review those results in different formats. I'm just going to stop that for a second, and we'll come out of here. If I come back in, It's only picked up my creative poll. So you can see that creative poll is stored there. Okay, the other thing that I could do is you have an instant whiteboard. So sometimes you just want that white space that you could really quickly write something up. So if I wanted to, I could do the same here, where I could pick up my pen and I could have just written that sum out here. It's not very easy to do with a mouse on your computer screen. I could write that sum and then say to my class, okay, I want you to answer that. And again, I could send that out. This time I might send it out as a number poll. Okay, and we'll see if we can get some of my class to answer. Let's see if it picks up this one. Normally what would happen is as my answers were coming in, so as students submitted it, here we go, we can see I get the little blue bar starting to show here. So if I click on that, here we go. We've now got our student view here. So it's showing me that Andy gave me his response, and his response was 65. So I can start to see names down here and answers that we've been given. Okay? And I can come back out of that again as well. So I'm just going to stop that. Now, as I said, I can go back and I can have a look at the results that I've built up using this Connect Without a Class, just using that ClassFlow code. But unfortunately, when I close this down, I lose that information. But if I had have used one of my other classes that was already connected to my classflow.co.uk account, though that all this assessment information, all this valuable information here would all go back to my ClassFlow account, and I would be able to look at that under my classes there. Okay, so I hope that that gives you a little picture of ClassFlow Desktop to start off with. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quit out of that now, so we can go to ClassFlow Desktop. Sorry, to classflow.co.uk. Too many class flows going on here right now. Just before I go on, I'm loath to get Andy to talk again because we keep conflicting with each other. Okay, so we don't have any questions that have come in right now, so that's fine. If you do have any questions, just remember to send them in. Now what I am going to do is I am going to just close down some of these windows so I don't get confused. And I'm going to take this away, and I'm going to go into classflow.co.uk now. Okay, so when you go to the ClassFlow website, this is what you get. You get your home screen to start off with. On your home screen, there are some great bits of information that you can have a look at without even registering for an account or logging in. So we do have a marketplace where you can go and have a look at pre-created ClassFlow lessons. So if you're not ready to create your own at this time, we do have the option here for having a look at some lessons some sample lessons that have been created. Also, if we scroll down here, it gives me an idea of some of the things that ClassFlow can do, and can scroll down to find out more and get started. But what I really want to do is to either sign up for an account or log in. So you can sign up by clicking on here, and then in this case you'd want to sign up as a teacher. But also with ClassFlow, you can have students sign up to have student accounts. We aren't going to talk about this too much today, but I'm going to touch on it just at the end. If you already have an account, or if you have a Google account or an Office 365 account, you can skip the sign-up process there, and you can sign in with Google or you can sign in with Office 365 because we do the authentication with those two. I am just going to log into my account here, so I've got my details saved. I'm just going to click that, and I've now logged into ClassFlow. So you can see my screen has changed slightly. I still have that familiar search bar that I can go to for searching into the marketplace, but now I have my classes, my resources up here at the top. And what I also have down here is just an expansion of what I can do in ClassFlow. And what they've done is built in all of the help files. A lot of help files and support to help people get started with ClassFlow are built right within the website. So I can click on any of these to find out how to create a lesson, for example, and then I can click on here to start creating a lesson as well. Now, as I said, there is lots that I could show you about ClassFlow, but we've already been half an hour, and I don't want to be keeping you all night. So I am specifically going to be focusing on assessment today. So I'm going to come up to the top here, and just really quickly, I wanted to show you, if I go into classes, you can see, you'll recognize these 4 classes that came up in my ClassFlow desktop. So those classes that I was talking about and where that information would go if I connected with ClassFlow Desktop, this is where that information would be collected, all that student data would be collected here. I'm just going to go into my resources right now, and I'm going to go to my lesson for today. So we're going to look at pain-free assessment, and I'm going to deliver this. And again, I'm just going to use the ad hoc session here because I want to make it available that if anybody wants to experience what it's like to be a student connected to a ClassFlow lesson, that you can join. And for those people that had already joined with ClassFlow Desktop, you'll notice that you're still joined here because I was using an ad hoc session with my classflow.co.uk site, and my code is the same. So my ad hoc code is the same. If it had been one of my classes, every class has a different code. So I could very easily move from using ClassFlow Desktop with any application I have on my computer already to going into the full ClassFlow website and not have to have my students reconnect, just be connected automatically. So, as I said, we're going to be looking specifically at this time just at some of the things that you can do with ClassFlow assessment. I'm not going to be looking at how to build it right now. Again, these are things that we're going to revisit in the new school year, so please do keep your eye out on prometheanworld.com/GB under news and events for our upcoming dates for the new school year. They're not up there yet, but we're going to be working on them soon and hopefully get them up in the summer holidays. So there are 3 types of assessment that you can do in ClassFlow. I'm loosely putting it 3 types of assessment, and I can see my stand down here is missing half its word for some reason. But what we can do is ad hoc polling, lesson-based assessment, and also this one should say standalone assessment, not just stand assessment. So let's have a look at each of them just quickly. So ad hoc polling. What I mean by that is when I'm setting up my ClassFlow lesson. My ClassFlow lesson is made up of a series of cards, and my cards can have lots of different types of information on them. They can have text and images. I could have embedded videos into it. I could have embedded Google Docs or PowerPoint presentations, or I can have a PDF or a Word document. So my cards can be a huge variety of things. But ad hoc polls mean that at any time in my lesson, I can gather feedback from my class. So I can ask questions, get their opinions, get their ideas, do some assessment at any point without having to pre-set it onto the card or pre-plan it in advance. Of course, most teachers, myself included, when I was setting up a lesson, I would probably think of specific pages that I wanted to ask questions on. But it also allows for those teachable moments when something comes up and I say, great question, let's see what we can find out from the rest of the class. The types of ad hoc polls you can see is a good variety here. So we've got a good amount of questions, and you'll recognize some of those as being fairly similar to what you could do in ActivInspire. To start a poll, I would just go down to this button down here, and this button is only available when I have students connected to my lesson. So if this says 0, it wouldn't work. But you can see there, clicking on that, you can see the different variety of questions that I have here. So I'm just going to send out a text question to everybody that has joined my lesson and just say, have you enjoyed what you found out on the webinar so far? And I could get people to just chat their answers in. So I still have 11 pending responses. And I know Andy's going to type in something there for me as well. So on the student devices, it will then give them a text box allow you to type in, and you can see here I've got some answers. Now, just to say, most people have just done 1 or 2 words, but it does allow you to students to type in up to 140 characters, so just like a tweet, so you can get a good amount of information in there instead of just single answers. So thank you, everybody there. I'm just going to come out of that, and I'm going to stop that. Okay. Another type of questioning that I really like is this one here. So countries in the world that we visited. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a word seed. And my students on their devices, you now have the picture with a text box, and I'm going to ask you to type in a country that you visited before. And once they've typed that in, they're going to tick submit to submit that into me. I'm going to ask you to delete the original one you typed in and type in another one. So what I love about WordSeed is, let's say if I'm starting a new topic with my class and I want to find out what their previous knowledge is, what understanding do they already have of the topic, and gathering that information at the beginning means that I can better cater for their needs. So instead of going over stuff they already know, I can make sure that my lesson is focused on new information for them. And you can see I've started to get this information coming up here. And what you can also see is if more than one student gives the same answer, then it'll have a little number here at the top. So in this case, I can see who's given the answers by clicking on it. Okay, and we can see that there. What I could also do is if there are similar ones, now I know that these ones aren't related at all, and I could cause a bit of controversy here, but I could bring Scotland and I could put that with England and say that's part of the UK, so let's just group them together. So as a teacher, I could also pull them and group them, and that's okay to say that because I live in Scotland. I consider myself Scottish now, and I'm with Andy here, and he's English, so we're okay with that little grouping for the sake of this. But isn't that great having all this little information popping up on there? Nobody's typed it in yet. I don't think anybody's typed Bulgaria in just yet. Okay, so I'm going to come out of that, and I'm just going to stop that. All of that polling information is being saved. So if I click on here, I can go back at any point in the lesson and review that information that my class has given. And it's also being saved, so even when my lesson ends, I can go back into my class and find all of that fantastic assessment data. I just want to do one more poll, ad hoc poll, and again you'll recognize this from the page in ActivInspire, from the page in Desktop, and this time I just want to show you what it looks like with a creative poll in the ClassFlow site. So I'm just going to send that out as creative, and everybody's going to have that come up on their student devices, and this time you'll have the tools will appear either at the top of the screen or down the right hand side, and my class can pick up the pen tool, or you could use the text button and annotate. So I could say to my class, I want to see your work, so make sure that you show me your work. And then when you've completed it, you want to submit that. And I can see one person has submitted it down at the bottom here, or 2 people. Somebody's given me a blank one. And I can see here, down here. And what I ideally would like to see is working through to find out how they arrived at the answer, because we know that sometimes it's not just about getting the right answer, it's about the whole process on how to get there. But as I said, I can click on any of these and we could explore those further. What I can also do, the little plus here allows me to add that into the lesson. So if I come out of here and stop that, and I'm just going to go into my carousel. You can see that I didn't pick the best student one because we had the answer off the side there, but this could be a student's card that I've put right back into my ClassFlow lesson, which then in turn we could discuss and then share that back out to everybody else. And maybe they're going to have a look at the student's work and identify where in their process they went wrong when they were completing that piece of work. Okay? So that's ad hoc polls, and again, as I said, it's clicking on this one here down the side, and you can see the 8 different polling types that you have. Creative also has a little camera, so what's nice about that is sometimes it's just about sharing a good piece of work. So maybe they've been writing something on a piece of paper. We're going old school here, and I want to share that with the rest of the class because it's fantastic. So I could get them to take a photo, send them a creative card, get them to take a photo of that, and then send that and look that up on the screen as well. Now, the next type of questioning that we can do in ClassFlow is lesson-based assessment. So far, all of the questions with Adhoc polling that I've asked you, the question has appeared on the display, and I've sent the question to my class, they've answered it and sent the answer back. So we've all worked on the same question at the same time. Lesson-based assessment enables me to create a multi-question assessment that goes along with the lesson that we've been working on. So if I just click on this page, you'll see down at the bottom that there's a little number 6 there that tells me that there's 6 questions on this, and I've got a little start assessment down at the bottom here. So I'm just going to click on that start assessment, and my class are going to start to answer the questions. And if you are looking at it, do get a couple of answers wrong, because it is nice to show that up here at the top. If I can see some of the answers are coming in. Now, when I set up my assessment in ClassFlow, there's a lot of things that I get to set up with it. I'm not going to flip through into a student account right now, because as I say, this is just to give you a flavor of the assessment that you can do with the ClassFlow website. But we will be doing a further webinar to take you even further into this on how to create assessments yourself. But there's lots of properties that I can change with assessments. So if I wanted to, I could identify correct or incorrect. So we can see here correct answers are green, incorrect answers are red. I can randomize the questions so people sitting next to each other get different questions. I can put feedback. So if they got a question incorrect, I could give them some feedback that maybe helps them to think again and hopefully arrive at the correct answer. I could allow them to retry, and if they retried, the little bubble here would be yellow, and it would tell me how many times. It'd have a little number in the corner to tell me how many times they retried. I can also set up an assessment so that it has different levels. So I'm just going to click on, oh, it's not letting me click on that one. Normally I could click on that and it would bring up, there we go, it was just a bit slow, a legend here. So I could create an assessment that has different levels, and I could get some students to start at level 1 and some students to start at level 4, so I could differentiate as well. I'm just going to come back out of that, and I want to focus on this. Okay, so looking at this, a few bits of information I could get right away as a teacher. So I could look at question 4 and go, oh dear, everybody in my class got that wrong. Now, I know that question 4 you didn't actually get wrong. It was a text answer, and in my setup there's an error with it. And so it's marking it, it's scoring it where it shouldn't score it, because obviously I've given you an open text question. But you can see here that what I might do is identify, oh dear, lots of people are getting that wrong. I want to just stop this assessment so we can address that gap in the learning right away. And if I had my ClassFlow teacher account open on my teacher tablet, I could be viewing this assessment information without my class having to see it. So it means that I could intervene and identify gaps in learning and support students at any point during the lesson, as opposed to just having to do it at the end. And as I said, all that information is being stored for me. Okay, so just really quickly to have a look at, and I'm missing some of them. Some of my question types have disappeared down here at the bottom. So we talked about having 8 when we were doing the ad hoc polling, but I think that there's 12 or 16 different question types that I can build with a standalone assessment or with a lesson-based assessment as well. So I'm just going to come out of this for a minute and go here. So I'm not going to save this information in this case and come back out. I just wanted to show you here in my resources the different types. So this one is a lesson, and with the little orange dot there in the corner, I can see it has a lesson-based assessment attached to it. This one here is a standalone assessment, so you can see it's just here on its own. Now, one of the things I did want to just mention with the standalone assessment, and this is the last thing that I'm going to mention because I'm sure I've given you a huge amount of information already. I talked very briefly about being able to register for a teacher account, but also being able to have my students register for student accounts. So if I go back to my classes for a minute, my geography class has some students. So I've got 5 students in my geography class, and these are student-generated class. And what that means is each of these students have their own ClassFlow account. So if I just come over here for a second, and I'm going to log in here, and I'm going to log in as Brian because he's a student in my class with his login. Okay. What this means is that my class can have their own ClassFlow account, and there's various things that I can do. But one of the really exciting things that I can do with assessment is if I go over here and just do that little drop down, I can create assignments for my class to do away from my students to do away from the classroom. So if I click on this assignments here, you can see that I have given Brian an assignment, and I was setting this up last week, so it's 4 days late now, but I would change that, set it up to the dates that I want to. But I could set an assignment, an assessment as an assignment for my class to do away from the school. So it might be that I notice that a student is struggling on something and I want to give them a little focused practice. So I can give my instructions here. Okay, so I've told Brian what he's going to do when I want it back. And under my resources here, I've actually given him a standalone assessment. So I can create assessments that are geared towards individual learners and be able to give that to the students as an assignment and have them be able to complete that themselves, so in their own time. So we just need to start, and then we would let Brian start assessment. And we can see here it takes him right into his assessment so he could work through that at his own time. So again, it's looking at that personalization of learning. Instead of grouping everybody together, I could really focus on the areas that individual learners need practice on before an exam. Okay, so huge amount of information as always. And as I said, all I wanted to do here was give you an overview of ActivInspire, Desktop, and the ClassFlow website, and the assessment opportunities that are available to you to use with your class at no extra cost. I think that's brilliant as well, is that you could go away, sign up for your ClassFlow account, and get started with everything that I've shown you here today. As I said, the site does come built in with a lot of tutorials here to help you. You also have help videos at the side here and online help to get you started as well. But we will be offering some more sessions, so as I've said several times already, keep your eye out on PrometheanWorld.com/GB under news and events, because we will be adding some more titles into our webinar series next year, specifically focusing on ClassFlow. And just to finish off, I am going to mute myself, and I'm going to pass you back to Andy, and I'm going to let Andy finish, so let me just mute myself.
Thanks very much, Janice. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm sure you've got some great ideas for ActivInspire and using that with ClassFlow. And like Janice said, these tools are free. A few questions came in near the end on the chat, but the best way really is to get an account downloaded and start playing around with it yourself. So we'd like to hear your feedback as well. So if you could leave any comments in the chat function. And if you have any questions, feel free to email her directly, and her address is on the screen now. We're also on Twitter, so you can follow us at PrometheanUKI and TLC for UKI, and also on Facebook as well, facebook.com/PrometheanUKI. So as a reminder, if you do want to sign up, if you're in the UK or Ireland, go to www.classflow.co.uk. If you're based elsewhere in the world, go to classflow.com, and there you can find your free accounts, teaching resources, assessment tools and everything else. Okay, that brings our session to a close. So thanks again for joining us, and thanks to Janice, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us. And sorry, I didn't have my email address on there, but it's janice.brandsdatter@prometheanworld.com, but that should come out on the thank you for attending the webinar session email that you will be getting as well. Thank you very much.